That's the thumbnail right there. That's the thumbnail. All right. All right, what can I say about this fragrance? This is a blind buy that I bought years ago. You could see I used quite a bit of it. I've wore it quite a few times. It was a blind buy. I just bought it because I like the name. It's named after a sword from the Ottoman Empire. Let me spray some of this on, just to give me a reminder of what it's about. When you initially spray this, the first thought that goes into your mind is, oh my God, what evil putrid stink have I unleashed onto the world? And you kind of wish there was a reverse button on the sprayer and you could like undo your spray. The opening is really harsh, but it's not harsh in a way where you can't stand it, but it's like, it's got notes in it that you've never really smelled in a cologne or a fragrance, but you've definitely smelled it in nature. I don't know if that makes sense. But you get fecal, that's shit for those of you who speak French. You got a shit smell. You've got green, celery, like pine, woodsy. You got like an earthy soil smell. You've got nothing in this fragrance that even attempts to make, it doesn't even attempt to get a compliment. But that doesn't mean it's not a good fragrance. It's actually a great fragrance. The opening is really harsh and it's extremely non-linear. So it opens up and it actually starts getting better and changing as the day goes along. And then in the midpoint, it's actually a very, very good fragrance. But the notes are extremely familiar, but not in a fragrance context. So you got like the soil, the earthiness, grass, celery. You got herbs, like you can smell like oregano or basil, but these green herbs, like maybe a parsley. There's not much citrus. There's something that kind of resembles citrus. It's more like that acidic taste you get in your mouth after you puke. I mean, I know that sounds disgusting, but it's kind of more like stomach acid, bile, that shit that you would get in your, that taste and that smell that you'd get in your mouth after you puke. And this scent is one of those scents that you won't get it at first because it's so shocking. It's like those pictures. Do you ever see those pictures that have a bunch of dots? They're just a bunch of dots at first, but then you kind of like look at it for a while, and then after you look at it for a while, it just, you could start seeing the image. You're like, oh wow, look, it's a sailboat, it's a dinosaur. But at first, just a bunch of dots, so you really don't understand it. Well, I wore it quite a few times. This is an extremely alpha male scent. And you got all those really off-putting scents, those notes that I just described to you, the animalic, the fecal, the soil, the green and the woods and mushroom kind of, and herbs. But these are all notes that are very familiar in nature. Like fecal notes are very familiar in nature. So this scent kind of works in a subliminal way. The scent is extremely dry. It's also got like a booziness to it, and it also has like an elegance. So there's like a regal, elegant vibe to it where it almost smells like royalty, or like you smell like somebody important, like somebody who's a leader, or somebody who's like somebody who is definitely an alpha male. You actually smell like you've just killed an animal and you just rode in with this carcass on your back. In prehistoric days, thousands of years ago, back when we were hunter-gatherers, you were a hero if you were the person bringing back that carcass, making that kill, getting that hunt. So you would see, like, even nowadays when you look at tribes and the hunter-gatherer tribes, as soon as they make that kill and they bring it back to the village, everybody rejoices. They're like, hey, look, we're going to eat. We're going to eat really good. There's usually like a celebration afterwards, and then there's usually story time where the hunters talk about how they, hunted down this animal and blah, blah, blah. So this is what those guys would smell like. Like, you're like a prehistoric alpha male when you wear this. But then there is that booziness, that elegance to it, that also makes it elegant and civilized. But it definitely works on your subliminal subconscious. You smell like you rode in on a horse with a carcass on your back. Or you smell like you've just fought off a pride of lions and you're alive to tell about it. You smell like you've saved the village from a group of marauding Mongolians. You smell extremely masculine when you wear this. It's actually, and it's also very, you smell extremely ambitious. There's an ambitiousness to it that goes with this scent. Now, this isn't for everybody. At first, I hated this scent. I was like, I bought it blindly, and at first I was like, as soon as I smelled the opening, I was like, shit, this smells like hell. I was like, I need to return this, but I was like, you know what? I already opened it, I sprayed it, I don't think I could return it, so let me just give it a try. And I wore it a few times. And when you wear it, it almost forces you to smile. Because people that smell it on you, it gives them some kind of an anxiety almost. Because right away, they're looking at you and they're trying to figure out, is this person a friend or a foe? If you're a friend, they'll embrace you. But if you're a foe, they're like ready to run. If you're a foe, because you literally smell like you just killed something. Like the animalic, and it's also got a really smokiness to it, like a really like burnt barbecue sauce, like burnt barbecue. Like if you burnt some flesh on the grill, like pretty bad, and you put it up to your nose, it's got like a really strong smokiness to it, and it also has a really strong leather note. So you smell like the leather on a saddle on a horse. So it's extremely alpha male, extremely masculine, and extremely sexy, if you ask me. This is a panty dropper, but it's a secret panty dropper. It's not like if you were to have this scent at Sephora on the shelf and people were like, oh, here's 1 million, oh, that smells cute, oh, there's Bleu de Chanel, and if they smelled this, they would have freaking seizures. That's how shocking it is. I don't think they really sold much of this. I don't think, it's not one of those things where, because the opening is so freaking harsh, nobody in their right mind is going to pick this and buy this in a fragrance store after they test out a whole bunch of things. But if you give it a chance and you let it, you spray it on and you let it open up, this is a really good masculine scent. I don't recommend it for everybody. I wouldn't blind buy it, because there's a lot of people out there that probably would not appreciate this, but it's definitely worth a smell. Like, something like this is an anomaly. And especially in today's fragrance industry, there's no company that's ever going to put something out like this. This is a high-risk move. Meaning, like, everybody's out there and they're putting out scents that are really sweet, and then they're really pleasant, and they're really reaching for compliments. They're like, oh, smell like tiramisu, or you could smell like, an Eggo waffle, or Pop-Tart, or something sweet, or really citrusy and aquatic and really pleasant. But you got to remember, nature, raw nature, is not all pleasant scents. It's not all roses and flowers and fruits and all good. There's also really scary scents in nature, and this has some of those scary scents in there. this is kind of like, it's paying like raw homage to like real nature. You know, if you've lived in a rural area where the people actually slaughtered their own animals for food, if you were, you know, in a place where, you know, there was a lot of livestock running around, and there was a lot of horses running around, you would get this right away. But even if you're an urban person, you would still get this, because these are scents that are in our DNA, where we're, you know, in past lifetimes, you've smelled stuff like this. So it's deeply rooted in your DNA. So you won't get it right away, but it lasts a long time. It's got decent sillage. It lasts a long time, but doesn't stay the way it is. It lasts, but it's constantly going through different stages. It's like a Frankenstein monster on your skin, and it's kind of like you catch yourself smelling yourself to figure out where it is and what it's doing, because it's constantly changing and it's almost like alive. Personally, I hated it at the beginning, but now I actually kind of love it. There's that fine line between love and hate, you know? And this is extremely sexy, because this is like, you smell like the man. You smell like the guy, you know, who just, you know, fought a tiger with a sword, and you know, you came back and you got the animalic smell to you, and not only that, but there's also that regal, royal smell to it, like a royal note, the booziness, and it's got a little, it's classy and animalic at the same time, and it doesn't reach for compliments. So it's, you know, you don't pander to people. Like, I know, like a lot of today's fragrances that smell really pleasant, it's almost like they're pandering for compliments. And this is the opposite of that. And that's all I could say, I guess. I like to keep my fragrance reviews short and sweet, but in this case, this is such a complex scent that it just couldn't, like, it's hard to describe. But it's like nothing you've ever smelled before in a fragrance context, but it's like everything you've smelled before in a nature context. Thanks for watching, and I would say definitely check it out. It's worth a smell.